welcome back to the Roadside Dawns channel. In today's video, we visit the White Cliffs of Dover, then take a look at one of the Western Heights fortifications, and finally, we end the day at Samphire Hoe Leisure Park. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. There are two car parks at the White Cliffs, one directly at the visitor center and the other a little in front of it. We are parking in the latter, which is located above the port. The visitor center was built in the area in 1999. It has a restaurant and an information center where you can learn more about local archaeology, history, and landscape. The available walking routes can be seen on the displayed map. The site of the visitor center used to be a prison, but today only a few small signs of it can be seen. The South Foreland Lighthouse can be reached in about 50 minutes, but if you also want to visit Langdon Beach or the Fan Bay Deep Shelter, then you have to allow even more time. The White Cliffs of Dover are so famous that they even appear on commemorative postage stamps issued by the Post Office of UK. The monumental cliffs, located in Kent, facing the Straits of Dover and France. Its striking appearance is due to its composition of chalk. The cliffs stretch for 8 miles on either side of the town of Dover and can be seen from the French coast on a clear day. The coastline surrounding the cliffs is owned by the National Trust. The walks on the edge of the cliffs are easy to follow, the footpaths are easy to walk, and it can be enjoyed at any time of the year. These cliffs have great symbolic value in England, as they face towards Europe, across the narrowest part of the English Channel, where there have been many threats of invasion throughout history, against which the cliffs form a symbolic guard. The cliffs are made up of layers of soft, white, fine-grained chalk, built up over millions of years. They were formed from tiny planktonic green algae that lived in the ocean. When the algae died, their remains sank to the bottom of the ocean, where they merged with the remains of other creatures. In the course of millions of years, the seabed came to the surface and the white cliffs seen today were created. However, they only remain white because they erode naturally. In places where erosion is prevented by something, such as artificial structures, plants grow there, so it appears green when viewed from the sea. The chalk grass environment above the cliffs provides an excellent habitat for many species of wildflowers, butterflies, and birds. What we're seeing in the footage is a kestrel that we've never seen so close before. The peregrine falcon is the rarest of the birds living on the cliffs. During the Second World War, these White Cliffs were Britain's front line. From 1941, large gun batteries were built along the coast to attack German ships and enemy forces in the Channel. Next to the footpath is a huge meadow, full of marguerites. We have never seen so many daisies. It's so amazing. This section of the cliff tops formed an important part of the defense of England in the Second World War, and the remains of gun emplacements and other wartime structures can still be seen. The underground tunnels, known as the Fan Bay Deep Shelter, are only open to visitors on certain days. Built in just 100 days, the shelter provided shell and bomb-resistant accommodation for soldiers serving on the nearby gun battery during the Second World War. Unfortunately, it's closed today, so we can't go in. The South Foreland Lighthouse was built in 1843 to warn ships off the dangerous shores of the Goodwin Sands, a 10-mile-long sandbank at the southern end of the North Sea that has seen many shipwrecks over the years. The lighthouse on St. Margaret's Bay is interesting because it houses a 1950s cafe, named after the family that lived here with their 13 children. The cafe is usually open every day during the summer months, but the lighthouse is only on certain days, from Friday to Monday between April and October. The White Cliffs of Dover have inspired several works of literature. The most famous of these is Shakespeare's King Lear, who writes, "There is a cliff, whose high and bending head looks fearfully in the confined deep. Bring me but to the very brim of it." In 1851, the English poet Matthew Arnold began his poem, Dover Beach, by praising the coast of Kent. "The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full, the moon lies fair upon the Straits. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay." We are heading back, but on a different route, so we are going towards the Fan Bay Sound Mirror. The sound mirrors were one of the first early warning systems invented to predict the approach of enemy aircraft. This path is a little steep at the end, but now we are on the footpath closest to the coast, where we will soon be able to go down to the Langdon Bay. The Langdon Steps, a zigzag path built in the 1830s, leads down from the top of the cliff to Langdon Bay Beach, where you can see the remains of the SS Falcon, an iron screw steamer that caught fire in the English Channel in 1926. The beach can also be approached from St. Margaret's Bay during low tide. In the other direction, at the western end, there is a restricted area of the Port of Dover, so it is not advisable to leave the bay in that direction. At the end of the path, we pass through a tunnel, but in order to get down to the beach, we also have to climb down a fairly high and steep ladder. During the Second World War, 3 searchlight batteries, known as the Langdon Lights, were built into the base of the cliffs of the bay, so that ships trying to enter could be illuminated while it was checked. One battery has since been destroyed by a rockfall. There are additional tunnels behind the batteries, but access to them is closed for security reasons. The bay is also known for the Langdon Bay Hoard, a collection of Bronze Age metal objects found nearby in 1974. This included, among other things, bronze axes of the French type, and is believed to have been the cargo of a boat that got into a storm after leaving the English coast. This shows that there was already trade on the channel in the Bronze Age. The iron screw steamer, SS Falcon, that caught fire in this bay, was carrying a cargo of hemp and matches, so the fire was quite serious. The remains are in surprisingly good condition after more than 80 years thanks to the thick steel hull. The Western Heights of Dover are one of the most impressive fortifications in Britain. They were created in the 18th and 19th centuries to increase defenses and protect the port of Dover from attacks by sea and land. The army withdrew from here in the middle of the 20th century, and since then it has been a local nature reserve, some parts of which are managed by English Heritage. Most of the area can be visited freely, but some interior parts can only be viewed during opening time. The Drop Redoubt is one of two forts in the Western Heights, connected to the other, the Citadel, by a series of dry moats. It is the most impressive and immediately noticeable feature in the Western Heights of Dover. Before its construction, a bastioned fort had stood here as part of the 18th century fortifications. Its original form was a simple pentagon, formed by cutting trenches into the hillside and protecting them with brick walls. Thus, it provided solid protection, with a barracks, magazine and artillery on top. During the Second World War, the redoubt housed a group of commandos who would have been responsible for destroying the port of Dover in the event of an invasion. Their presence was secret. There are many other buildings belonging to the fort, but it would take too much time to visit the entire area, and due to lack of time, we only look at this part. However, I think it's worth taking the time to find them all. Maybe next time. Between the Citadel and the Drop Redoubt are the ruins of an 12th century church with a round nave. We also take a look at the Citadel, which you can walk around, but unfortunately you can't go inside. The building is privately owned and a visitor center is planned to be built here. The Citadel at the west end of the heights formed the main point of defense. The Samphire Hoe Country Park is a nature reserve created from rock excavated during the construction of the Channel Tunnel. Located at the foot of Shakespeare Cliff between Dover and Folkestone. The nature reserve is named after the edible plant rock samphire that grows wild on the rocks and was once harvested from the cliffs of Dover under rather dangerous conditions. Its fleshy green leaves were picked in May, pickled in brine, and sent to London, where it was served as a dish to accompany meat. The hoe means a piece of land that extends into the sea. This railway shown here is not the Channel Tunnel, but it is also nearby. Shakespeare mentions the samphire plant in his drama King Lear. Halfway down hangs one that gathers samphire. Dreadful trade. Methinks he seems no bigger than his head. This refers to the dangers that arise from collecting the plant. The park is a great place for nature lovers. Visitors can enjoy easy walking trails, cycling and angling opportunities, as well as birdwatching. There is also a cafe on site. We've come to the end of today's video, but stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video, where you can take a virtual walk with us in the incredibly retro town of Folkestone.